Hi folks, Dr. Pulsfer here, and I'm going to ask and try to explain whether Russia is the new sick man of Eurasia. Now, this is an old title that referred to the Ottoman Empire in the 19th and early 20th centuries. Now, the Ottoman Empire was at one time very dangerous. They twice besieged Vienna, the last time in 1683. They owned the Balkans, they owned Hungary, Egypt, Iraq, Iran, Arabia. They were suzerains of North Africa. They owned Afghanistan, and so on. But then they rapidly failed, and after World War I, the country had been reduced to Turkey and was no longer Ottoman, it was Turk. Just before World War I, the Ottoman Empire was defeated by the small Balkans countries in the Balkans Wars. So the question is Russia the new sick man of Eurasia? And was the losing to Ukraine more or less equivalent to the Ottoman Empire losing to the Balkan countries? Now, the Ottomans in their later history were threatened frequently by the Russian Empire. There were numerous wars between them, and the Crimean War in 1854 was largely about the Western powers of the time protecting the Ottomans from the Russians. And they invaded Crimea to do it. Well, there's no similar threat to Russia today. On the other hand, there was nothing for the Ottomans like Russia's horror in World War I and especially World War II. And those experiences have perhaps made the Russians more paranoid. What about economics? The Ottoman Empire was economically backward. Well, in Russia, what was a poor situation before the Ukraine war, which was saved only by energy exports, is now dire thanks to sanctions. Sooner or later, the energy exports and then the production will collapse as well because of sanctions, which won't be lifted most likely for a long time. Corruption is common in Russia. Western enterprises have mostly left the country. And you can ask who will want to invest in Russia in the future because it's too chancy. Many of those companies that left have lost all their property, billions of dollars worth. Of course, Western expertise was needed to sustain the oil industry, and that is gone. What a mess they're in. Militarily, the mighty and feared army of Soviet times has proven to be a crippled army, crippled by poor doctrine, poor organization, corruption, old, poorly maintained equipment, no competent non-commissioned officer class, that is, sergeants. The Russian Navy and the Air Force performance has not been much better. For example, the cruiser Moskva's crew was probably at fault for its loss because they, one, didn't manage to defend themselves from a couple of missiles, and two, apparently did not do very well in damage control. And the Air Force is invisible over Ukraine, although they still stand off and fire cruise missiles. There's no quick fix for these problems. Vladimir Putin's ambition requires a Soviet economy, but Russia's economy is much smaller. Now, Russia does have one big plus going for them that the Ottomans didn't have. They have nuclear weapons. Unfortunately, that makes them think they are more powerful, aside from the nuclear weapons, than they actually are. What about the social situation, where it's an oligarchy, an autocracy, and autocracies seem to breed lies and corruption and graft, and perhaps even incompetence. It's a poor educational system. Many of the people live in poverty. A demographic collapse is imminent. That is, they don't have very many young people. And over 1 million of their most skilled, most of them young, have fled the country, first when the war started, and then when there was the mobilization. The country is an international pariah. Yet the government is in cloud cuckoo land. They think things are going differently than they are, and you can't fix problems if you don't understand reality. So it's a pretty messed up situation, and it sounds a lot like the sick man come again to me. Thanks for listening.